To understand the sun in astrology and esoteric astrology, we can start by considering the function of our literal physical sun relative to us here on Earth. It is the centralizing, governing force of our physical existence, making life on Earth possible. It sustains, it brings the light of day to us. The light of consciousness is another way of considering it. And when it comes to understanding the sun esoterically, we're looking at this home centralizing base for the force of the physical self. When we consider the sun esoterically, there aren't too many major differences in terms of the significations. However, what does change when we consider the chart esoterically is the way in which we consider the soul relative to the sun and how it seeks to utilize the sun for its purposes. And we've discussed this elsewhere when we consider the rising sign, which is the sun of possibility with which the soul expresses through. In exoteric astrology, sometimes the sun is called the home of the soul or the home of the spirit. Actually, the sun sign is the home of the essence of the physical self, of physical consciousness. It is the place where consciousness rests into the body and self-identification begins. So in that way, yes, there is the centralizing I, the me, but it is not technically the soul as we understand it metaphysically or occultly. It is the self-consciousness that comes from the physical personality, the physical form, the body, from the lower three centers down. So we saw this when we looked at Leo, and the sun rules Leo at all three levels of expression, but at the exoteric personality expression of Leo, the sun represents the self-consciousness of the personality self, and occultly considered actually lacks true self-consciousness, which would be the consciousness of the soul, right? So this connection to the physical self, physical atomic substance, is said to be vibrating at this, in alignment with the sign that the sun sign is located in. So this is why it is said the sun is the path of least resistance and the sun of probability in terms of the actualizing in the life. So if we all other things considered, if we just take a sit back, drop in and relax, how are we expressing at a baseline? That is the sun. Rayologically, it is said that the personality ray expresses through the sun sign. We've also touched on this elsewhere, but if we're working out our rays to start with, we would look at the sun and the ray of the sign that is in, and working out how we sense that in our lives at the individual level, and then considering what other major conditioning factors are expressing. So in the video where I discussed working out your rays as a starting point, I talked about myself as a Taurus sun. Okay, so that's a fourth ray sign and a sign of harmony, art, beauty. So as a little kid, I was really obsessed with rainbows and color and sensitive to color and a little bit OCD with organizing things in a right color palette, and then the typical Taurus expression, not that it always expresses artistically, but in terms of singing, Taurus rules the throat, physically anyway, and has connection to the throat center. I did music and arts and these sorts of things. So this is a very typical Taurian expression. However, in my case, particularly as I got to age 11, 12 and moved into adolescence, I was really drawn into very third ray topics, and there was an obvious synthesis between the third ray and the fourth ray. And I was drawn to philosophy and abstract thinking, and this is a very third ray quality, right? So we start there in terms of working out the personality ray and see how there's an interchanging relationship between the ray of the sun sign and whatever else core themes might be dominating or obvious when we look at the life trajectory and the unfolding of the personality consciousness. And it would make sense that we would start to see that at around adolescence, right? Because we've developed enough of the core personality traits and we're moving into a little bit more individualization, moving away from the family, all this sort of stuff, right? So coming back to the sun in esoteric astrology, it is the point of least resistance. It is our baseline equipment, and this is how we recognize it in esoteric astrology. The sun is the equipment that we have earned or developed through past incarnations. So from the point of view of what the soul wants to do, it is incarnating into a certain sun sign because it wants to use that mode of expression for its purposes. Now, of course, shifting the life to a soul-centered one has its challenges and difficulties and has a lot to do with bringing the inner esoteric qualities of the rising sign forward, as we've discussed. But that is the function of the sun in terms of its relationship to the soul and what the soul wants to do. Physical plane consciousness, the centralizing eye, there can be a connection to the breast into the sacral center as well as the core level of creative energy. And in the sun's relationship to physicality, we can see why certain afflictions to the sun can result in, whether by transit or through hard aspects natally, can result in either health and vitality issues, difficulty expressing in the body, sometimes literally, where there might be tendencies to hide one's creative expression, right? The ability for the core attitude or freedom of the creational self. Think about the typical significations of Leo in its personality expression. So the ability to shine as our form self. Therefore, the sun is matter itself. It is said that at the physical level, at the exoteric level of expression of our physical sun, it has a strong relationship to anima mundi and the earth's being. And so the way in which the sun moves the physical body, matter, substance, is connected to the animal aspect, to the third ray aspect even of the animal kingdom. All of this, the sun is at the physical level connected to that baseline physical consciousness, which of course we all have to start with in terms of coming into incarnation. The evolution of our connection to the sun sign from the level of the soul is that of shifting identification to the true self, the inner self, the hidden sun of the soul, and then the hidden sun of spirit, the triplicity of the sun that we spoke about in Leo, where the me center moves out of the me as I recognize myself physically, as I'm like, yeah, I'm a Taurus sun, I'm a Leo sun, etc., into the awareness of the transcendent soul self and the way it's expressing